Take 3 of Quarantine Questions, Episode 3. Every mistake on me. But I'm really excited about this episode. We've got a guest Zoom meeting in with us. Probably the GOAT, or the guest that's been the closest to me in my life, my brother, Dr. Michael Roth.
Howdy. Good to be here.
So, we've got my brother Mike here. As you guys know, we usually measure out to make sure that we're social distance, but Michael and I are a good 1,000 miles apart, so I think we should be good, right, Dr. Roth?
Just to be sure. There you go.
Very good, very good. And this is a very big show for us 4th graders. As I mentioned last week when we had our principal, Mr. Anderson, on, Mike, I was the 2nd most subscribed to Todd Roth on YouTube. I was down by five subscribers, 15 to 10. And over the course of this week, I've now become the most subscribed to Todd Roth on YouTube.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Quite the honor.
Impressive, right? Yeah, didn't take long. For reference, I am still 1 million subscribers behind the most subscribed to person with the last name Roth, and 1.1 million subscribers behind the most subscribed to person named Todd. But, based on my math, this took me a week and a half to become the most subscribed to Todd Roth, so I think it should take about a month to catch those guys, if my math is correct.
Wait, and you're a math teacher?
Yeah, yep, 4th grade math.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, I'll help you check me or check that after the show here. So
Your journey begins with a single step, I guess.
yeah. So we're going to start with a segment we started last week. This is Laffy Taffy Dad Jokes. I dig in here. Normally we have both people do these, but Michael is not here to do them, so I'm going to pick the Laffy Taffy and read you the jokes. Michael, as you know, I'm well qualified to read dad jokes because I am a dad.
That is true.
So, first one. You ready for this one?
Born ready.
How do potatoes resolve fights?
They fry it out.
They hash it out. Close. They hash it out.
Oh.
Number 22. When can peanuts laugh?
When they crack up.
When you crack them up.
Oh, rats.
Very good. Very, very good. So, Laffy Taffy Dad jokes. Which one did you prefer? The peanut or potato joke?
I think the peanut joke. I prefer protein at this time of day.
Over starches?
Yeah, generally.
Probably good health-wise. So, as I had mentioned, my brother Mike is a naval doctor. Right now you're at Walter Reed, correct?
Correct.
And you had been, Laffy Taffy, you had been at the Veterans Hospital in Washington, D.C., though, prior to moving back to Walter Reed, like a week ago, correct?
Yep, I've been at the Veterans Hospital for a month.
So, Mike has been working throughout this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, and I've got a couple questions that I want to ask you just about what that experience was like, and maybe you can give us some insight into these. What's it like to give it, like what all happens giving the test? What's it like for someone to receive the test?
Well, if anybody has ever been tested for the flu, it's pretty similar to that. It's not a very comfortable test, so the doctor or the nurse who performs it takes a swab that kind of looks like a really long Q-tip, and they stick it in your nose and push it back about as far as it will go. Your nose is connected to your mouth, kind of in the back part of it. So you're kind of pushing it all the way back towards where your nose meets your throat.
So very uncomfortable. It would be, or not very comfortable, I guess would be the way to describe that.
Not very comfortable. Usually people sneeze afterwards.
I can imagine. So when you have to go in to administer a test or to see a patient who's tested positive, what's that procedure like preparing to go do that? Do you have to suit up to give the test, or just when you're working with someone who's going to, or that you know has tested positive?
Yeah, it's quite the process. You really have to get dressed up to do it. The first step is to put on a mask. So you put a mask over your nose and your mouth and tie it up behind your head so that it stays in place. And then you need to put a big gown over the top of your clothes so you can prevent your clothes from getting dirty with COVID germs. Next, you put on a pair of gloves, and then finally you put on a face shield, which is basically a piece of clear plastic that goes right in front of your eyes, your nose, and your mouth like this. So there's always something kind of in front of you, keeping you from getting dirty.
How long would you say that it takes for that whole process of putting on the whole suit and getting ready?
You can do it if you're going pretty quick. You can do it in less than a minute.
Do you have any advice?
So, not too long.
Do you have any advice for my students and parents and other people that might tune in? Obviously we hear some of the things on the news, but anything that you would add from your experiences?
Hold pretty true. Keep your social distance as much as you can. It's probably a good idea in these times to stay home and to try to avoid being out in large crowds or being out around a lot of other people. And definitely wash your hands as much as you can. If you come in contact with something that you're not used to, or touching things in public, that sort of thing, wash your hands before you face anything like that. Make sure that you're always washing your hands and keeping everything clean.
We lost you a couple times and then you broke up just a little bit. I believe what you said was anytime you're going to eat, anytime you're going to touch your face, make sure your hands are washed and clean. Correct?
Exactly. Keep everything clean.
Keep everything clean. So we're going to get to the actual main event of this show, quarantine questions. I've got a few questions for you, and I've written down some answers. One I think might be wrong, but my first question is, I've been watching this show on Netflix about toys, and some of them were ones that you and I had when we were kids, which led me to the question, what was your favorite childhood toy that you can remember having? And I have something written down, and I'll hold it up to show you if I answer it right.
1 second. This Hulk Hogan action.
I was wrong.
Probably my favorite toy as a kid. This actually was a gift from my brother Todd. I don't know if it was actually a gift or if I just took it when I was when I was younger, but it's up here now. So this was my favorite.
I had Batman.
Oh,
I had
I
Batman.
did like my Batman too. That was also a good one.
That was my guess. If I remember how Hulk Hogan transferred to you is, I don't think I ever wrapped it up or gave it to you ceremoniously as a gift, but I was never a Hulk Hogan fan. I was an Andre the Giant, a Jake the Snake, a Bret Hart fan, and that was your favorite, and I think I just kind of let you have it because I knew it was your favorite. One of the nicer things I probably did as Mike's older brother growing up. Question 2. Do you still play video games as an adult?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
The time you don't get as much time to do it. Why I asked that question, when we were kids, I remember one Easter we got an N64, and I can remember that we kind of had to figure out a rotation for who got to play it when and whatnot, and that was always kind of that was contentious because I wanted to play, Mike wanted to play, Tim played a little bit but not as much. What's your favorite video game of all time? Follow-up question.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Ah!
Definitely the third.
This is the one that I wrote down an answer, but I thought I had it wrong. I wrote down GoldenEye, but when I wrote it down, I was washing dishes this afternoon when I came home from work. I thought maybe Mario Kart was going to be my next one.
That is also a good one. Mario Kart 64. I also like Dr. Mario.
Actually, I didn't know you liked Dr. Mario. All right, question 3, and probably the most important one. What was the best part of having me for a brother?
Well, I would say it was definitely not reading you Garfield every Sunday.
I do that to my students sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I get Thursday papers, sometimes I'll read them Garfield. I'm not as good at it as you are.
How do they respond to that?
About the same way that you respond when I ask you to read it.
It sounds about right. I would say the best part about growing up with you and Tim, actually, was all the toys that I had to play with. All the hand-me-down Ninja Turtles and hand-me-down wrestlers and G.I. Joes, although Tim never let us play with the G.I. Joes, I guess. But,
very seldom. Tim had to be playing with the G.I. Joes for us to get to play with them. Very seldom did we get to play with those.
I remember we used to stage WrestleManias, and I think we used to make Batman movies. It was
Yes,
a good time.
yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. You know, I have fond memories of. We didn't live in town. We lived out in the country, probably 3-4 miles out of town. I never really measured it, I guess. And so we didn't always have other kids to play with, so we had to play with each other. And I'm 5 years older than Mike, but I would make Mike play baseball with me or wiffle ball with me, and I had to trick him. And I don't think there were very many games. They'd be 3 or 5 innings. I don't think there were very many games where you weren't winning going into the bottom half of the last inning.
I don't remember that part.
I would keep it close, but I'd always let you, because if I got up by too much, you would quit. I wasn't fair. It wasn't one of the nicer things I did, but I would keep you in the game.
Just enough hope until you can crush it.
I didn't want to lose because I was competitive. We asked this one to every guest. If you could be quarantined with any celebrity in all of history, which celebrity and why?
That's a good question. I would probably say, the one that comes to mind is Leonardo DiCaprio, because I imagine that playing charades with him would be a lot of fun.
That's a really good answer. I really like that. I would not have guessed that. My little brother, since I don't even know how old, is a history buff. I would have thought maybe like a Napoleon or somebody historic, a historical figure like that. I would have thought that would have been your answer.
President Lincoln would be nice too.
President Lincoln, you know, Mike was also a wrestler in high school and college. Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
That is true. He was a very avid wrestler, very avid grappler.
And our last two questions, we always put them, we classify them together, but as a doctor, what would you say is the most challenging part of your job?
I would say, you know, when you have a patient that isn't doing as well as you'd like, or is sicker than you'd think, and isn't getting better as quickly as you'd think, I would say that's probably the most difficult part. And the challenges that come up with trying to keep the patient comfortable and making sure that their family is comfortable with everything going on, and that, you know, they understand how serious the situation is. Those are the toughest days when you have people that really aren't doing well.
I can definitely understand that. I can see how that would make for a very tough day. What is the most rewarding part of your job as a doctor?
I would say probably sending people home out of the hospital when they feel better. You feel like you've really accomplished something. You've really accomplished something there, and you know you've helped somebody who was really sick when they came in, and you know you get them to a point where they can return to their life, and you know it's something that we do pretty much every day. So sometimes sometimes it can get to be, maybe we don't realize it as much as we do, but we are helping a lot of people, and people really, really appreciate the work that we do. So when you take a step back and realize that, it's a really, really good thing.
You know, and I want to thank you for coming on with us, Mike. You know, I know I've talked with you on the phone before this, and we've talked about how this is not a time to be taken lightly, and I like to have my jokes on here and be silly and try and keep it light, but we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about the quarantine pandemic that we're experiencing right now. Before I wrap things up, do you have any advice for fourth graders, young students, young people that might be watching this that want to be doctors? What would you tell them?
I would say, you know, focus on doing well in school, and think about, you know, even if you think you want to be a doctor, think about a lot of other career choices, because there's a lot of other things in the world that are very interesting and very good to look at, and it's always good to keep an open mind. But, you know, for right now, just focus on doing well in school, learning as much as you can, and talking to other people about what they like about their jobs, and talking to doctors about what they like about their jobs. Information as you can.
You know, I always tell my students too that when I think back to watching you grow up and go through all of your schooling, that I always tell them my younger brother is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and I truly mean that. It's not an exaggeration. But Mike is one of those rare people that you meet in your life where he has the intellectual talent, he has the talent in that area, but Mike worked his tail off. Mike, I don't know if I've known many people in my life that have worked as hard as you have, and that's something that I don't know if I've ever told you that, how proud it makes me to be your brother, knowing that. Once again, I'd like to thank my brother, Dr. Michael Roth, for coming on with us and taking the time to do this. Putting up with 3 different takes of this. It didn't go well on my end a couple times. Thank you for everybody who's liked and subscribed my videos, subscribed to my channel. I mentioned before, please comment down below. I'm going to keep trying to get people in from my family, in that are my friends, on through Zoom. But I also want to have teachers come in and have teachers in on this same thing too, because I think it's a fun way for us to get to know other teachers in a way that maybe we don't always get to here at school. So give me a like, subscribe, and then comment down below which teachers would you like to see maybe come on next. Right now I know I've got 3 comments on the last video, but they're all 3 different teachers. So let's see if we can get that up. And let's get working towards getting those 1 million followers. First I'm going to be the most subscribed to Roth. Thank you again, Mike, for coming on. I love you, buddy. When this whole thing gets wrapped up, I can't wait to see you and you guys. So, thank you.
Of course. Thank you, guys.